Okay, and we are live or live recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of my new show, I Am My Own Story. I am Solid Blue Sister, aka Solid. And with me, I have someone that I have spoken to on a previous podcast, Friendly Differences, Reagan. And today I would like for Reagan, she has agreed, she has gracefully agreed to come on and share her story of transition. So without further ado, Reagan, welcome and thank you for giving me your time this morning.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me back. It is always a pleasure to talk with you.
Okay, so Reagan, you are transgender.
Yes.
And I would like if you could just kind of tell your story, and then I'll have some questions, and we can go back and forth from there. Like
Right.
what? So I'll just let you start.
All right. I'm never the greatest at explaining my story. I do kind of piece it together as I go, so I do apologize. I'm not like the greatest public speaker. My name is Reagan. I am 50 years old. I am a post-operative transgender female, which means I have gone through gender reassignment surgery. My story basically starts when I was 6 years old. Back in those days, you didn't discuss this stuff, but as a 6-year-old, I remember in my head knowing that I was in the wrong body. I was the one who at Christmas time would cry in my own head. I want to ask for the easy bake oven or the girls' clothing, or when mom would take me clothes shopping, that when we walked by the girls' department, I would shake and be like, "Oh my God, that's where I should be shopping." So basically, it comes down to I knew what I was when I was 6 years old. And like I said, back then you couldn't discuss it because then that's when they stuck you in mental institutes or hospitals, or they just completely thought you were whacked. And growing up in the Boston area, that was another problem. So I went through my middle school, junior high school, suffering in my head as to what I should have been. My siblings and I didn't get along because I was so troubled that I would cause issues with them. What else? I am the best term for me to put it is I am now a lesbian. I've never dated a guy, so all the girlfriends that I had dated prior, I was living vicariously through while dating them, which for a trans person does ease their mind a lot. Um, but it was a difficult struggle. It was a struggle that was always going on in my head. Finally, to jump over 40 years, back when I was 42, living on my own, the pain of gender dysphoria got the best of me. So in order to transition, you have to start with psych. And I went from one psych facility, not facility as an inpatient, one doctor to talk to another, till I found one day that I trusted, and it all spewed right out. So after going through months of counseling, months of proving to them that this was not a phase, because most transgender people, no matter what you hear in politics, it is not a phase. But they wanted to prove that it wasn't a phase. They actually wanted to also prove that it was not a kink. Some people, they say, possibly have a kink towards it. And they finally started me on testosterone blockers when I was 42, 43. And then maybe 6 months later, I started on estrogen. And jumping ahead several years later, I found myself in 2019 going to Mumbai, India for my first, well, let me back up for a second. 2017, I went for my first breast augmentation here locally in Florida. A year later, I had to go for a revision. Then a year and a half later, I found myself going to Mumbai, India for my first gender reassignment surgery, which that was a complete failure, but that's a different story. Then a year later after that, I went and had a revision in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, which that was a complete success. And, here we are, kind of went through 50 years real quick, the best I could. But it is definitely a struggle that people do have. If they are legitimately have gender dysphoria, it is hell in your head.
Okay. All right. So I want to ask you something, because this is something that I did not know. In terms of your siblings, what is your relationship with them now? And do you have like brothers or sisters or?
I have a brother and a sister that I do not talk to.
But it was their choice not to talk to you.
I think it was just too many years of issues
because of how you felt,
and us being totally different people. We're different in the way that differences clash, and so we just, last time I talked to them was there was a medical problem with my mother one day back in 2021, I think it was, that my mother could only reach the phone and hit redial, which it came to me, and I had to call to my brother and sister for someone to get to my mother. So that was the last time we spoke. I have not seen any of them in 7-8 years.
Okay, so it's the same with your mom and dad. You don't see them either.
My father passed when I was 6,
Okay.
but my mother and I, we talk. Her and I have no issue, but she knows that the relationship between my brother and sister and I is non-existent. I have a sister. Well, I have 3 really close sisters that are not blood. I have one that just came here from the UK who was here just for 5 days. She left day before yesterday. I have one locally who just went and had surgery, but she is someone who I can physically see. And I have another one who is in Australia who we talk almost daily for the past 5 years, but no biological sisters. Not that I talk to. A brother and a sister, but not that I talk to.
Okay. And I'll have something to ask you. I'll just ask you. Okay, so my father passed away in 2018. My mom passed away in 2000. What are we? 22 in 2000, October 2021. So it's been a little
sorry.
over
That was
a year.
Real recent. Yeah, real recent.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So thank you. But I have a sister, and we have discussed, past things that, we went back and forth on, whatever. And it's something that I ask her, we're the only ones that are left. So with your brother and sister, your biological brother and sister, do you feel that because of where you are now and they know that you are trans, do you think that there's going to be any regret when you pass, when one of them pass? I mean, do you think that this is drawn, like, because I know that when you talk about gay, transgender, anything dealing with LGBTQ,
yep. It's a mouthful.
That it causes a wedge between families, and sometimes it can really, like, some people like, hey, okay, it's cool, and the other people like, oh no, whatever. So do you think that there'll be any regrets as you guys get older and people start to die? I mean, do you think that there'll be regrets on their side, and do you think you'll have regrets on your side?
I think that there's a possibility of regret on both sides. Do I think it's going to be major regret? Probably not. I wish, my brother has a son, would have loved to have met him, and has 2 stepchildren, which I would love to meet. But I think we're well past that saving point. And a lot of it is my fault, because when I was younger, I was hell. But because I was in, like I've tried explaining, when I first told them that I was transitioning, the pain in my head was so bad, I didn't know what to do as a child. And I was never an easy child to grow up with. So I think we're too set in our ways now. I don't think I, I don't think that there would really be a coming back, or it would not be it it would be a meet and greet, and then probably still go our own separate ways after that.
Okay.
I don't think it
Okay.
would be, like what you see on a Hallmark TV show.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. All right. Well, you talked about having to sit down and speak with someone before you can start the whole process.
Transition.
Does that also include family? Like, would your family also have to go through that?
Yep.
Do you think it's something that maybe they should?
It depends on the closeness of the family. I mean, my family did not influence, or had no effect on whether I was going to transition or not.
No, I don't mean an effect on whether you do. I'm just saying that for them to, so they can understand it and be okay with it. And even if they're not okay with it, they can kind of talk through it. You understand what I'm
If
saying?
if we lived in the same area, maybe. Do I think that do I think at the beginning it might have done some good with them sitting down and talking with someone who is aware of my situation and that is helping me through it all? Could it have helped? Maybe at the time, but I think we were already too far gone at that point still. Like I
Okay.
said, I hadn't seen them for, my brother I last saw down in the Fort Myers area of Florida, and that was 12, probably 11, 12 years ago.
Okay.
So, and I just started my transition about 8 years ago.
Okay.
So we weren't even close before I came out to them and they found out.
Okay. All right. So, why did you wait so long to start the whole process? Was it legal things in the US, laws, or financial? Why did you wait?
Um, a lot of it was the nerve of telling my mother. My mother knew me as I mean, my mom, when I was a kid, saw me in plenty of boy fistfights. She always saw the man in me. And I think some of that, I think coming out and dealing with everybody sitting there going, oh my God, so and so, which would be my previous name, is turning into a girl. The issues with employment. Plus, it's transitioning is not a cheap person's sport. I hate to put it that way. Not a poor person's sport. I'm far from rich. I've lucked out and scraped up the money, but it's expensive. Um, so it was definitely, and each time when I thought I was going to start to move forward, I would find a girl to date, and then everything would be put back in the back burner because I would live vicariously through them. I would see them, I hate to put it this way, putting on makeup or doing their hair or, trying on dresses and stuff. And believe it or not, it soothes the transgender brain. It soothes the dysphoria. So it kind of push it all in the back a little bit. And then it would slowly start creeping up again. And then you'd find something to push it back. So I kept pushing it back and pushing it back. And the one thing I tell people is all of a sudden I went a year without dating anyone. And I found myself on the couch one day in complete I don't know if the word depression is what I'm looking for. I found myself in a miserable place. And what kept going in my head is, that I need to transition. So finally, they say it's a phase. Well, at the time I was 42, that would have been a 36-year
Phase.
phase, which is not possible, 36 years of a phase. And I finally started that transition, finally realized that I needed help or else I was going to just go insane. And finally, when I found the one nurse practitioner who I spilled my beans to, just everything came pouring out, I finally felt at peace. And she was the person who got me to be able to say the word transgender without the hairs on the back of my neck sticking up, because I hated that word. I hated, I tried everything from brain MRIs to prove that I might have had a mass in my brain, to every genetic test possible, to see that it was a phase or it was a medical condition. And finally she said, look, you're transgender. You can either do something about it and start living happily, or you can continue to live in misery. And I finally did something about it.
Okay. All right. So do you ever regret not remaining male? Like, do you think you've missed out, or you think that, I mean, would your life be, in terms of your job and things that you do, just as a person, do you think that your life would have been that much different if you had remained male?
It's a hard question to answer, because that there were pros, of course, to being a guy. There was, having someone in my life, which I haven't since God knows when. I think in a lot of ways life would have been better, but the hell that I was going through mentally, who knows what would have happened. Because
Okay.
because it literally, people don't realize, like, you walk down the street, you're staring at a girl, and you're not, of course, yeah, there were parts of me that were checking her out, but I would constantly try to put myself into their head, looking like them and seeing how happy I could be. Um, it the hell, I can't imagine what the hell would be like now if I had stayed male.
Okay.
I still am in a lot of ways still living in hell, because this, the what all these politicians are making this out to be, and discrimination and little comments people make. But at the same time, a lot of that hell in my head has dissipated.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask you, are you happy?
I believe I am happier as I am now than I would have been the same time now as being the old me.
Okay.
There is a lot less pain than what I was dealing with before. So yes, the brain's happier, which makes a happier you. But of course, there are things that I do regret of transitioning.
Okay. You want to talk about any of those regrets?
Um, I think, work-wise, I would have been in the field that I was in prior. Not going to go
Mm-hmm.
particularly into what that field was, but I was doing a lot better financially. And oh, granted, I have not put myself out there to date since I started this transition. I keep telling people I will after my next surgery, which is in the planning stage right now. But I tell them, okay, after this next surgery, I will start to try to put myself out there. But It's been a lonely several years, very lonely several years.
Okay. I'm not gonna get into your business, but I do want to go back to your previous job. I'm not going to
Mhm,
ask what you did, what it was, or anything.
mhm.
But do you say that because that particular field or that particular company has a problem with transgender?
Let me put it this way: this company, this department, um, found out what I was 2 weeks before my 1 year anniversary, where I would have been protected by a union, which unions are not that strong in Florida, anyways. They got rid of me. I tried to go back to my previous department when I say department, I'm talking not different departments within a company. I'm saying this type of work is referred to as departments. And when I tried to go back to the previous one, even though my public record with this company that fired me is spotless, completely spotless, not a blemish on it, they slander me to this company, this department. And in order to do anything about it, I need to get a subpoena to find
Okay.
out what was said.
Okay.
And each of these departments have attorneys on retainer. So it would be dragged out by this company for years and wipe me out financially.
Well,
So
that's what they do. So okay, all right. No, I asked because I want the listeners to know, that there are companies that are like that, because that's going to lead in to my next question of the midterms are over. There's a lot being said, and what do you think about this whole? I said I wasn't going to get into politics, but I have to.
yep,
So, what do you think of this whole agenda of wanting to, you know, get rid of same-sex marriage, privacy in the bedroom, the whole, I think Missouri is one of the first states that are basically saying no contraception at all. And on a previous show, I do believe that I think you were on the show when we were talking about Roe versus Wade, and I said Roe is going to make a whole lot of other laws start popping up. So, do you think that, because I think that all these laws that are being proposed is going to backfire?
I think so. It's
So,
already started.
yes,
Look at.
yes. So, what do you think? Do you think that um, people have something to worry about? Or do you think that right now it's just something that's being talked about, but there's no way it can ever get from point A to point B? I mean, after all, even with Roe, it took 50 years for them to do something about it. They've been talking about things like Obamacare for the last 12 years, and they haven't done anything about it. I think Roe is going to be reversed, because it'll have to be, sort of. I don't believe in abortion, but I do believe that people should have a right to do whatever they want with their body, because basically what you're talking about are rights. So,
Exactly.
having said all that, and things that have affected you, things that affect me, things that affect women, on a political stage, where do you see transgender and the whole I can never say LGBT,
LGBT. Yep. I
LGBT,
think I think they have too many letters after LGBT. It's LGBTQIAA, and then there's like 20 other letters after that, and I think it's overboard. And here I am, a member of the community, which I sit there and say there's way too many letters. Um, I think, like Roe versus Wade, it's going to they are coming after transgender people, which we discussed before, what is it? Title IX.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe, even me at 50 years of age, do I belong on a girls' team where I probably couldn't hit the baseball as well, nearly as well as I used to when I was a kid. Do I belong on a women's team? No, because I still have the muscle memory as a guy. I know how to do it as a guy. Pre-puberty, I think pre-puberty boys are more girlier than girls are. So pre-puberty, I have no issue. But I think that they're trying to take too much control over people's bodies. Abortion, whether a parent should allow their child to transition or not, or stop their puberty. The worst thing you can do is let a boy go through their male puberty if you know for sure they are real, that they want to transition. That's the worst thing you can do to a boy or a trans female. People are interfering where the government, where people say government has no place. Government does not have a place in our bedroom, whether it's yours as a female, some guy down the street, or me as a trans female. They're stepping into trying to take people's rights away from them. Meanwhile, some politicians are saying that we're setting up our state to live free. Florida, where Floridians are free. But how are they? They're taking away women's rights and they're taking away trans people's rights. It's not your business and I'm pointing towards you because we're on the show. Mm-hmm. It's not your business what I do. If my mother was here and I was 16, it's not your business if my mother decides to let me transition or not. It's not yours. Just like it's not my decision whether you should be allowed to have an abortion or not. So how are we free in this country? We're going backwards. What I see is we're going back into the 50s. You know, people didn't have rights. Women didn't have rights. Women did not have the right to vote. I forget what year. I'm not the most educated. So whether it's the 40s or 50s or 60s, the government is overreaching their bounds. Parents in Texas were being investigated and charged with child abuse because their doctors tell the parents, your child is legit. They want to transition. Don't let them go through male puberty. And Gregory Abbott and Ken Paxton are trying to go after these parents for child abuse when doctors are telling them, and legitimate doctors. Mm-hmm. We're talking legitimate, not ones that are appointed by politicians that will say what the politicians want. Mm-hmm. We're saying legitimate doctors from the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Endocrine Society, American Medical Association, legitimate, non-partied medical entities are saying this is legit.
Okay, now having said that, and you did ask me this on the previous show, and I got in trouble making this comment before I even started podcasting. I was on another show and people jumped all over me and said I owed the transgender people an apology. And when I said that I do not believe in transgender, I believe that God made man and God made woman in his image. Mm-hmm. And people have challenged me on that. And then my thing, which I think you understood where I was coming from, because I said that you're telling God that he made a mistake or error. And I don't think that God does. Do you think that, well, first of all, I'm asking you, do you think that was rude of me to say?
No. You're entitled to what your opinion is, and people should respect your opinion. Me as a trans person who should, a lot of them would be all bent out of shape over that comment. Why? You're entitled to how you believe. You still respect me. I still respect you. I respect your opinion, no matter if I think it's incorrect or not. Because my argument would be, well, did God if God made us in his or her image, well, there are people that are born with deformities. There are children that are born with childhood cancer. There are children who, or, children are born with so many different diseases or deformities. And why can't God have made someone, because it is medically proven, the gender of the brain and the gender of the body go into the womb at two separate times, while the baby's, in the mother's womb. And I forget who it was, but the TV show was Through the Wormhole. I forget the actor's name who did the narration of it, but they have proved that one of those signals sending to the baby, the gender, whether the body or the brain, can be blocked. There's a chance it could be blocked. So how, it could happen because it goes in at separate times into that child.
Okay. All right. And I have thought about that, because that's an argument that people use. Well, why did God make this person, this child was born with one limb or something like that? I think there's a reason for everything. I think that we're born a certain way. I don't know if it means that person will grow up and they'll be an inspiration to other people. I do believe that we're all made a certain way because God has a plan. But again, that's just how I feel. Now, what you just said also, I'm going to ask this, and I know a lot of people a lot of conservatives are not going to like me saying this. If we had a test, and I know that you can have tests when you're pregnant to find out if your child's going to have Downs or something like that. But if you knew, like, from as soon as you knew that you were going to have a child, that your child would have that, what did you say, the blocker or
that the signal be blocked to the brain or to the body, right?
Okay, so and that's a possibility that your child may want to transition to a male or transition to a female. How many pregnancies do you think would be terminated just based on that? And I know when people watch this, I know people are going to get pissed off at me when I say this, because I think this is where the hypocrisy comes in. I think that you would, while all these people are saying, no, you shouldn't do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, these same people would be like, what? My child's going to be transgender? What? Oh, no. I think that those same people may not want to proceed with this pregnancy. So do you think
there's a good chance? There is a very good chance, but you always see parents, whether granted it's TV or movie or whatever, but you hear of people in everyday society, as long as my child is healthy, I don't care what goes on with them.
That's what they say.
Right. And I don't know that being transgender is different than if you have a child with Down syndrome, or born with MS, or brittle bone disease, or some of these other things. It's all a matter of I don't even know. It all depends on the parents. It all depends on how loving of a pair of parents.
Okay. All right.
In today's society, you hear of so many people in such a harsh, conservative manner, but then when something happens against them for being that harsh and that conservative, all of a sudden regretting it when things go the wrong way for them.
Right.
So I couldn't even get an answer to that.
So do you think that transgender will ever be 100% accepted?
I think eventually, but I don't believe in my lifetime.
Okay.
Just there's still discrimination against interracial relationships. Look at Judge Thomas. And he's the
Well,
first to try to go against, gay marriage. There's, yeah, I think eventually, maybe when I'm 80, which isn't too far off, but I think it's going to be a while.
so do you have any words of wisdom to give to parents who have children that are going through the same thing that you went through?
Listen to them. It is not it. You hear of all these stories of groups saying it's just a phase, and I believe the UK just came out with in their treatment towards transgender people that they believe most times it's a phase. Well, from legitimate medical establishments that don't take parties, it's not a phase. And as a person who lived through it, the worst thing you can do is not treat your child, take them for help, and listen. Whether you believe in it or not, you're not, unless you're a doctor or a psychiatrist, you don't know for sure. Listen to the medical people, take them for help. If it is a phase, don't just turn your back and say you'll outgrow it, because that's the worst thing you can do. Because over 35% of LGBT people contemplate or attempt suicide compared to the national average of cisgender people, which is less than 5%.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is hell. Treat them with respect, get them help, and if the medical people do believe it's legit, talk to them, talk to your child, and see how they want to proceed. They might say, well, let me slow down my puberty for a little bit. Okay, all you're doing is stopping puberty. It is not dangerous. The medication is called spironolactone. It's not going to damage them, because as soon as they stop taking that medication, they will start going through their puberty. But
So, speaking of medication, is this something that you have to take for the rest of your life in
no,
terms of the
hormones, yes.
hormones?
Yes,
So you have to,
I do not need to take hormone blockers anymore, because, like I said, I did have the bottom surgery. So my body, except for the adrenal glands, does not create any type of hormones, and that's very little in your adrenal glands.
okay.
So I go for the hormone pellets every 3 months. But other than that, there's no psych medications. There's just a blood pressure medication and the hormone pellets that I take.
Okay. Is your surgery covered by insurance?
My insurance was covered even out of country by Blue Cross Blue Shield, Blue Options in
Okay.
Florida, and
Okay.
it did cover out of country.
Okay. All right. So, in terms of, because you said that you went to India, you said you went to Rio, and other places.
My neck surgery is not covered. It was the genital reassignment surgeries that were covered, nothing else. So this neck surgery will not be covered by health insurance.
So, in terms of the U.S., is the U.S. harder to get things done medically as opposed to other countries? And is that why you went out of country to do things?
The reason I went out of country was because the American version of the vaginoplasty, I'm not a big fan of. It is basically turning male junk inside out and creating a canal. Mine was not made that way. Mine was made from tissue from inside my body. The first version I have was made with the peritoneum tissue. The second version was with the jejunum. The problem with the American version is it's high maintenance, extremely high maintenance. Creams have to go in. You have to maintain it on a constant basis. Mine, I just forget about and move on to my day like an average female. Mine cleans itself. Mine takes care of itself. That's why I wanted to go outside of this country. Per my gynecologist, my tissue has mucosid into real vaginal tissue. The American version, which is scrotal and penile tissue, you have to maintain. It's a pain. I would not want to have that version.
Okay. Now, having said that, and guys, I don't mean this to be an ignorant question or anything, because
No.
I truly want to know, and I think that other people probably do too. So once you've transitioned from a male to a female, and the vaginal tissue has changed, is there such thing as when you have sex for the first time as a female? Is there a hymen? Is there a hymen to break? Like, I'm totally serious. I mean,
No,
are you a virgin? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there is, even though in India, there is a plastic surgery place in India that will recreate the hymen on a female.
Okay.
But no, for trans people, you don't have that because you actually have to dilate to maintain that canal. So as soon as you have that surgery, you're dilating anyway, so that hymen would be gone.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's trans females don't go, post-operative trans females don't go through that initial popping of the cherry, I guess you'd say, that a cisgender female would.
Okay. All right. And again, I was asking the question because me personally, I wanted to know, and I know there's somebody else out there that wanted to know. Okay. And for my last question, and again, you mentioned it briefly on our other show. When I got married and I went to the DMV, I just had to have a copy of my marriage license, because my name is hyphenated.
Yep.
So was it harder for you to change your name and your ID and everything? Because
it was actually very simple.
Okay. So
now for the name, I had to go to court. That was something you have to go to court, because there was no, I mean, even just cisgender people, if they want to change their name,
right,
unless it's for marriage, you have to go to the court and get approval for changing your name. Changing my gender on my driver's license was the simplest thing. There is, or at least in the state of Florida, there is, on the Department of Highway Safety Motor Vehicles, there's a area for changing your gender. And on that link, it will give you a verbatim verbiage that your doctor has to use. Verbatim. Every single word in that order has to be said with we'll use me and my name on it. So my doctor wrote that out. I went to the DMV with that, and they changed my gender. My gender was changed before. Was it before? No, I think I did it all at the same time. But the DMV changed my gender just based off of that letter alone. And then I went to the Social Security Administration afterwards, and they also changed it. And in the state of Massachusetts, where I'm from, you can actually change your birth certificate. So I'm very fortunate that everything legally now says Reagan blank blank female. Everything.
So do you think on a legal basis, again, you said everything was relatively simple, with the laws and everything that are being proposed, do you even see that being an issue, that they would make it harder just to get a driver's license?
I don't think that they're able to legally stop you from changing your name or your gender, especially if the doctor puts down. I mean, I in some ways would understand them saying, you have to have had the gender reassignment surgery, but as a person who didn't have it yet and had their gender changed on their driver's license, I also see leaving it the way it is. But I don't think it's ever going to become that difficult, changing that. The only thing I can see is legally the birth certificate in the state. It's the only thing.
Okay. All right. And you have said several times Florida is your home right now. Um, do you see yourself staying there in terms of the way the laws are going? Do you have your which state, your fantasy state or state that you would prefer to live? Or do you just see things?
Out of this country would be my first choice,
Okay.
honestly. And nothing against, that's not just because of the politics. There's certain areas that I would love to live in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Florida, I'm very fortunate. Really never ran into discrimination. I'm fortunate. Never ran into a problem, even though I'm more scared going into a woman's bathroom. Like I had to go to the airport the other day, and I kind of keep my head down and just dart in, dart out, even though I have female parts, but I never ran into discrimination, never ran into issues, which bathroom I can use. And I don't think at this point I could be discriminated against in a legal standpoint, because my driver's license says female and a female name, my social security, my birth certificate, my passport. But there are people who, this state is not the friendliest for, especially for those who have not who are just starting their battle.
So, okay, so you made the comment about going into the ladies' restroom. So, why would you keep your head down? Why would you? I mean, like you said, you have everything, and I mean, and I don't, and people probably aren't really paying attention to you anyway. So, they're
Right.
running in and out. So,
I'm one of those that are very pro cisgender females. I don't believe just because you throw a gobble lipstick on and a dress on, you belong, and say that you're transgender, you belong in a woman's bathroom. You don't.
okay.
You need to make sure that, I am a guest in the women's bathroom, if that makes sense. I did not start in kindergarten running into the little girl's room and, go through life. I try to make sure that cisgender women that they don't feel uncomfortable thinking that there's a dude in their bathroom.
Okay. All right.
So, and I do try to avoid that someone going, oh, there's a guy in my bathroom. Oh, no, there isn't. Oh, yes, there is, because a lot of times when people have looked at me kind of strange, the first thing they do is look down at the chest. And then all of a sudden they feel easier. But, I do try to just go in, do my business. I don't sit at the mirror, do my hair or anything like that. I run, wash my hands, and get out.
Okay. All right.
So,
Okay. Well, Reagan, I have asked all the questions that I want to ask, and again, I may rub some people the wrong way with some of my questions or comments, whatever.
but you know what? You're entitled to it. People should respect, just like people should respect people who are transitioning. You are entitled to your questions because you're curious. People should, respect, your opinion, just like you gave your opinion a little while ago of God and not making mistakes. I respect it, even though I might not see
Mm-hmm.
the same as you. People should respect your point in this.
Well, as always, every time I talk to you, you are very, very open. And I must say that last conversation that we had on friendly differences, and we weren't talking about transgender. I just want all the listeners to know that Reagan is a cool person to talk to. I mean, we had this conversation, and I've watched that segment a couple of times, and I just kind of laugh and I just kind of giggle, whatever. But she has more depth to her, guys. So.
Thank you.
There's more to her story besides just this. But Reagan, thank you so much. I know this was a 2-week process of the technical difficulties and everything, but thank you so much for giving up your Saturday morning, afternoon, whatever.
Anytime you have an interesting conversation and you want my thought towards it, don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Well, thank you very much. Do you have any last words you want to leave everyone?
Just don't believe everything you hear on the news, and let people just live their life. That's it.
All right. And with that, everyone, thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.